In the dark, sparks leap as strangers gather around a single fire. On a windy shore, a small band warms their hands over the flame, while a grandmother's voice shapes the night, weaving words of hunts, names, and warnings into the first light of dawn. Fire and language allowed humans to coordinate beyond the ties of blood. Shared stories became the currency of trust, turning small bands into settled communities. We learned to coax life from the soil. Along the fertile banks of Mesopotamia and the Nile, farmers watched the floods recede, leaving rich silt for new crops. This cycle chained us to the seasons, but it also unlocked a revolutionary power: surplus. Granaries overflowed, funding the rise of specialists, city walls, and rulers. Writing, scratched into clay, tracked debts and harvests. Law, carved in stone, bound strangers who would never meet. Cities rose on the promise of a shared future, and with power came the need for ideas to justify it. Along the Indus and the Yellow River, philosophies explained why some should rule and how all should live, creating a shared code that gave rulers legitimacy and communities a soul. Ideas traveled with goods. Picture a camel train on the Silk Roads, its cargo of silk swaying with each step. In the dust of a desert oasis, merchants traded not only their wares, but news, mathematics, and beliefs. These same networks that carried wealth also carried microbes, spreading prosperity and plague with equal efficiency. This ancient pattern echoes today in our own global supply chains and social feeds, which deliver wonders and shocks at breathtaking speed. As trade routes expanded, so did empires. Classical powers rose on taxes and legions, only to crack under their own weight. But on those same roads, new ideas offered a sense of belonging wider than any empire. Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam crossed borders and centuries, carrying compassion, debate, and sometimes conquest.
The world was becoming irrevocably interconnected. A new dawn rises over the mid-Atlantic. The year is in the early 1500s. Salt and gunpowder sting the air. A descendant of that first storyteller grips the rail of a ship, the wind whipping a map in their hands. This single voyage would stitch the destinies of continents together, unleashing a torrent of change. The Columbian Exchange of maize, microbes, and silver would remake diets, topple empires, and transform the ocean into a highway. A scientific revolution ignited, and the Enlightenment began to question the very nature of power. Then steam and coal remade the world again. Mills roared, cities swelled, and wealth multiplied. But this new power was built on extraction, fueling conquest and fixing borders with the fierce logic of nationalism. The 20th century was defined by trenches and firestorms, culminating in a tense peace where global rivals armed for annihilation. Now, in our time, the connections have accelerated beyond imagination. Wires, satellites, and screens pull us ever closer, shrinking distance to zero. But as our interdependence grows, so does our inequality. Climate change redraws our maps, and pandemics test the limits of our trust. These deep histories shape the choices we make today, from editing a genome to deploying artificial intelligence. They are the stories that brought us to this moment. They remind us that we must learn how to wield our incredible power without losing our shared humanity.